My name is Azu Nwagbogu. I'm the Curator at Large for Photography at the Zeitz MOCAA Museum, and I've just joined recently. Obviously, the museum is new, and we're very excited to work with the museum in a constructive way to promote and to share the work of contemporary artists, especially working in contemporary visual culture, not just photography, but moving image as well. I think photography all over the continent has become the definitive medium of our time. And I think it's really one of the mediums that we use to sort of have a voice internationally. And I think it's really helped contemporary African artists to really sort of compete, if you like, on an equal footing with artists from all over the world, because photography has an urgency about it. And through photography, we can, reach other nations, other people, other cultures. And I think the Zeitz MOCAA has done a wonderful thing by dedicating a lot of effort towards this department. I'm very happy to work within the department, and we are starting with a solo show for a mid-career artist, a very established artist, a retrospective for him. It's Curator. He's been working in painting, film, photography, sculpture. He's a very established artist, but I think photography has been the number one thing that has defined his career. So the idea is to do a mid-career retrospective of his work and to show his work in a way that I think is unique, because when an artist creates work and he travels all over the world, it's always a bit in part, it's often in part. Even when it's a solo exhibition, it's usually a solo based on an idea. But what we're trying to do here with this exhibition is to show the motivation, the inspiration, and the things that sort of drive the artist. And that's what we're going to show with Curator solo exhibition in September. And I think a lot of people will be surprised the way the work is situated at home. When you see the work of an artist, an African artist outside of his continent, out of his comfort zone, I think there's a different way of engaging with it. And I'm hoping that when people come to see it here on the continent, here in Cape Town, in the way that it will be done, they're able to engage with the work a bit more in a deeper way, in what I hope will be circumambulant and synesthetic, because he makes beautiful music for his work. He also makes films that are really very incisive and very emotive. So I think it's almost like going to church, if you like, when you come to the exhibition. I think that's the feel that we're going for, a very grandiose but also very quiet aspect to the exhibition. So I'm really excited by that. I'm looking forward to it. Photography is incredibly important in the history of South Africa. If you think about all the great, all the information that the rest of the world received about South Africa pre-apartheid, it was photography that really informed our consciousness, our collective consciousness about the brutality of the apartheid regime, the interventions that were going on, the possibilities of change. And there are so many, I don't want to even begin to name names, but there's so many great South African photographers who are in their 80s now, who were able to use photography to, create activism. And I think that's something that we want to share through in this museum, the politics of photography, the relevance of photography, not just as documentary, but also as a way of creating activism and fiction, even within contemporary visual culture. There's always movements in photography. If you think about when an image becomes iconic, there's an incredible reflex to sort of recreate it. And so if there's a movement, I wouldn't say there's a single movement, but there are several movements in photography, like studio photography is becoming relevant again. The idea of a constructed tableau, vernissage type, studio type shoot is becoming really, really important, and artists sort of staking their claim and their identity, because I think one of the important aspects of photography internationally has been the absence of black faces, black people in museums internationally. So now there's the interest in creating that presence, that identity within photography. So it's almost like saying we are here, we want to be seen, we want you to take notice of us. I think that really plays a role in a lot of the work that a lot of artists employ, especially the women artists. They use the performative, if you like, and the studio in creating work. I think that's I don't want to use the word trend, but that's something that is kind of popular in the contemporary medium. I think the museum needs to make a statement, but also, a museum cannot be everything to everyone. And I think if you look at a lot of museums in Europe and in America, they're also trying to address this problem of representing the changing demographics of their communities. So I think the Zeitz MOCAA have an opportunity to not look back or not try to copy other museums, but rather to shape its own identity, to shape its own future, if you like. And it's a wonderful blank canvas, and the artists need to tell the stories. All we need to do here is to provide intellectual architecture, provide the physical architecture, and give the artists a chance to come into this space and to engage. There's also the importance of going out to win over the audiences and to come into the museum, because this museum is meant for the people, and the museum will be representative of its demographics. So we are in my department, we are designing active outreach in what they call the townships or the inner city areas, to make sure that there's a public-private engagement, there's an active uptake, if you like, of communities that are often not seen in museums within this museum. We do not want this to be another mirror of what you see in the West, when museums are very representative of upper middle class or middle class, community. We really want to bring people in to engage with the work, and we want people to see themselves represented within this museum. I mean, it will function in the broader sense like a proper museum, with education, entertainment, information, guided tours, as you mentioned. All of that will be incorporated within the museum, but in a way that really is sensitive to the communities that we want to serve here. Well, I started the Lagos Photo Festival 10 years ago in Nigeria, and my interest in photography has always been because I've sort of understood that it was a medium that really articulated our reality. There was an urgency with photography. There is an urgency with photography that was very attractive to me. I'm not a photographer myself, I'm a curator, and I sort of embraced photography because I felt like it was the fastest way to really get the work out there, and it was a way to sort of put yourself on an equal footing with others, if you like. And so when we organized the Lagos Photo Festival, it was the only festival and the first one on the continent that really showed the work of international photographers side by side, local photographers. We also had a unique approach where we didn't want to just engage with, say, documentary photography or reportage, or we didn't want it to be art photography or, fine art photography. We really thought it's all about visual storytelling. And I think that has really created a movement, if you like, today, where a lot of people understand that you cannot really create too many demarcations within the medium. It's really all about photography. It's really all about the medium. And we need to embrace that medium to tell fictional stories, to tell factual stories, to tell tendentious stories that are very personal. And I think that's the beauty of photography. It can be personal, but it can also be broad. But at the same time, the photographer's view is very unique, and it still really comes back to the eye, the person. And so that's something that I feel like if this museum can embrace, the idea that we can tell personal stories, African stories from a very unique perspective.